Okay, I think we have, we should begin, and then we'll have attendees join us as they come in. And just so for our panelists, we have counselors from India, from Middle East, from Latin America, so pretty much across the world. So firstly, thank you very much for all the attendees for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. My name is Rohit Kandari, and I'm the Associate Director for Outreach at UnivAssist. And we have two counselors here who've actually, done their own events, taken the reins themselves. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then we can move forward with the webinar.
Jenny, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Tassel. I am a counselor at the International School of Panama, and I have been, I've known the KIC UnivAssist team now for many years, when they used to come to our school and have fairs at our school. And yeah, I'm excited to talk with all of you today. Thank you for having me.
Well, hello, I'm Susana. Everybody calls me Susie. I'm a counselor from Guatemala City. And yes, we organized a very successful virtual college fair this year, and I'm happy to share with you our experience. Thank you for being here.
Great. Thank you very much, Susie and Jenny. And thank you very much for all the attendees for being here. It's been a very challenging year for high schools across the world. And it has obviously brought some challenges, not just for high schools, but also for universities. A lot of universities who would have otherwise traveled to your school for in-person college fairs are not able to do so. I know there are so many schools which haven't been in person for over a year now, and they're just doing online classes. So there is definitely a lot of uncertainty with the current situation around country level quarantines, how those quarantines would be, the borders restrictions across multiple countries, all the government policies and the air travel chain. So there's definitely a lot of concerns for even high schools, whether they want to host visitors or not. So there's a lot of uncertainty around when things would go back to normal. And despite that, I think one of the key here is there is this need to keep our students focused. I mean, all of these students have studied hard, they worked hard for all these years and have come to a point where they need to make, I think, the most important decision of their lives, which is where do they study and which college they choose. And I think I do feel for them personally, and that's I think one of the core or remains at the center of everything that we do over here at UnivAssist, and even all the counselors who've joined us. So there is definitely that need to help them with selecting right fit institutions as they look forward to career in colleges for themselves. So we understand that this is not possible now in a physical setting, and the best solution for that is to organize your own high school career fair. And as the topic of this webinar rightly said, taking the reins, we want you to take ownership of organizing a high school virtual fair. And while you do that, there might be a lot of questions that would pop up in your mind. What platform should you use? How would you actually plan your virtual career fair? What would be the delivery method? I mean, I know there are so many platforms out there that high schools are using, but which might be the best one for you? And how do we go about with the logistics? I mean, that's I think one of the most pressing questions for counselors. How do they organize one and go about with the technology? Because obviously we are not equipped to handle those kind of things at school. And then I think one of the biggest question is, who is going to pay for it? If we end up using some technology for our own virtual events, who will pay for it? Will the school bear the cost, etc.? So there are some of these important questions that counselors have in their mind as they look forward to organizing their own virtual career fair. And happy to share that this is a space where UnivAssist can help you in organizing your own virtual career fairs. We have been using our WebiFairs platform to do that. Hopefully, a lot of you have already experienced the WebiFair platform personally, where we have done our own events. But what we essentially do is we provide an end-to-end solution for schools or a group of schools who are looking forward to hosting their own virtual career fair. For that, we are, as I said, leveraging our WebiFairs technology, the WebiFairs platform, which I'm assuming some of you might have already experienced. And we have been doing this for a while. So since last year, when the pandemic struck, we pivoted quickly to a virtual setting, and we have been leveraging this platform not just to do our own events. We have done over 18 events ourselves now, and over 5 high school specific events where we have leveraged the technology for high schools to host their own career fair. And these have been very productive. I'm happy to share that we have been able to work seamlessly with the platform and been able to replicate an experience of an in-person virtual fair that you would have done at your school otherwise. The best part of it can be done at no cost to the high schools. So I think that's what makes all of us happy, that the schools don't have to bear the burden of all the technological expenses to host a career fair for their students, and still continue to help them in finding right fit education or right fit colleges. And I'm going to come to that shortly, how we organize it, how it's a no cost event for high schools. But I think at this point, I'm going to invite Jenny and Susanna to share a little about the events that they have done. So just so that all our attendees know, both of them did their own events. One was done last year in September, and one was done earlier this year in March. And both had different formats of the event. So I think I'm going to leave it to that. I don't want to spoil, spill the beans here, but we'll let Susie and Jenny share a little more about how they managed to do it. What were some of the things that they decided as they planned this event? What were some of the learnings that they had? So over to you, Jenny.
Thank you so much, Rohit. Well, first of all, I think when all of this started with COVID, we were flooded with so much information from universities, from companies. And I had, just to give a little bit of historical context, the Ocean to Ocean Fair we had done in person for several years, which meant planning logistics, exchanging of money, and, working out. It was basically like a 3-day event. So we kind of already had the reputation of our event of being like a well-run event, but it was a lot of work on myself. I usually, what we'd do is I was a lead counselor, and I'd work with about 16 other schools in our area to put on this in-person event. So when we went virtual, I initially just canceled it because there's no way to continue this. We would have over 1,000 people come to our campus that day. And I had already known KIC UnivAssist, and they had been coming to our schools. And I also got to know the owners of the company, and I understood their ethics and the ethos that they brought with them whenever they came and visited our schools. And I really did trust them. And so when we went virtual, and they had mentioned that they had this WebiFair technology and we could continue, I didn't give it a second thought, because I knew that, I could trust this organization with running an event like ours. And we had decided to kind of bring it back to life very last minute, with only, I think, a couple of months of planning, when we used to take a whole year of planning. And I think the key that convinced me to keep going was that I didn't have to deal with money. And I think my administration, whenever I came to them each year before, when it was starting to plan our event, they kind of braced themselves because they knew I was going to ask for a lot of things. And when I went to them last year, and I was just basically, give me time during the day when I can do this. I don't need any money. I don't need anything. We'll take care of everything. And so, of course, the answer for them was yes, no problem. Let's do it. And so, and also for the other schools that we worked with, yes, no problem. Let's do it. And so the great thing, I think, was that you're working with a team. And I'm just to let you know, I don't work for KIC or anything like that. I just had a really good experience. And it made a very, very complicated process that I used to be involved with each year to very simple. And that was because there was no exchange of money. The universities, they would pay directly to KIC UnivAssist. And another thing is you worked with Rohi, who was amazing, and Suraj and Kate and and it was seamless because like the reps said it was seamless as well. And I didn't have to deal with one technology issue. Anytime there was a question, I would just forward it to Rohi. I was like, Rohi, can you deal with this, please? I don't know how to answer it. And actually the day of the event, there was not one technological issue. A student didn't have problems getting on. The universities didn't have problems connecting to the platform, not one. And we had about 90, almost 90 universities that day with over 1,000 students that had registered and attended. And we were involved with 17 schools in our area to put this event on. We kept it for about, we kept the time frame for about 3 hours, and we had, before it was a multi-day event when we were in person because we had these presentations attached to it, and a networking event. And so we still kind of wanted to have those presentations. So 2 days leading up to the event, we had in the evening a series of webinars that the universities put on different topics. And so when he said, what did we learn from this? This year we'll be doing the presentations again, but we're not going to spread it over 3 days. We're going to have it one day, then the evening before, and then we're going to have the fair for 3 hours. And so that format, I think, worked out really well. We had it during our school day so that we got agreements from all of the schools that were participating that they were also going to have it during their school day, so we could guarantee that the students were going to go. So that having that understanding made it very, very simple. Another thing which I really liked is as a school counselor, someone that is working in a school, and we want to protect our students and protect their data, right? So one thing that I really liked is that they gave us the option of how we wanted to share the student data. And so then we were able to say, I don't want data shared with those students unless they go into that virtual room with that university. Not just joining the platform, but only if they visit the room, then they'll have their information shared specifically to that university. So it would be kind of simulated that if they were in a college fair and they went to the table, they have the choice of sharing that information. And so that made me feel a lot more comfortable. And I knew that the data just wasn't swimming out there and being sent to all the universities. Also, another thing that I really liked is that we wanted to simulate when we were in an actual in-person fair. You know how the kids sometimes go to the middle of the fair and the counselors kind of have to pull them and push them to the individual tables, or if they have questions, they would come to us. So we asked them to create a counselor desk, a virtual room for the counselors of the schools that were participating. And so then the students, if they had technology questions, they would go to the technology help desk. If they wanted to talk to a counselor and say, Miss, can you tell me, I'm looking for this school and I'm not sure which one to go visit, then we could say, oh yeah, because we know the kids and we know the schools, you should go visit this room and this room and this room. And so that was really helpful to kind of replicate that in-person feel with still being virtual. But I think a key is just working together with other schools. It's great, if you have a big enough population, maybe if you just want to do it for your school, but to make it worthwhile the time, if you're going to do it for one group of students, you might as well offer it for your area. Because when you're all working together as counselors in a specific area, you have someone to help you with the legwork of maybe getting the word out there. You have someone helping you to get students to register. And I think one thing that really helped to make sure that we got students to register is we had the students do we have what they call advisories in the morning. And so we had all of the students in our advisories a couple weeks before, and in our advisory as an exit ticket, because we were virtual, was they had to register for the fair in order to leave advisory. So that was where we guaranteed that they would register. And since it was during the school day, their attendance was expected as if they were attending a class. And so that was kind of a way to make sure that we got the students going, and we also made them aware of how to navigate the platform, which is really actually very user-friendly and very simple. But I don't want to talk all time because Susie, I'm sure, has a lot of really great information to share. But overall, I was just so happy. It was just so easy. And with as busy as our jobs are, to have something that's simple is ideal for something that can be very complicated. Thank you, Rohit.
Thank you very much, Jenny, for those lovely words. And I'm glad that you clarify that you don't work for us, because yeah. So I'm glad to hear about your experiences, and we'll have some more follow-up questions after this, in terms of some of the learnings that Susie shares, and then we can have more. But over to you, Susie.
Well, hi. I had it easier than Jenny because I learned so much from her, from the high school side. As a history, the Central American College Tour began in 2015. I'm the one who organizes it. So we already had, quite a few universities asking this year if we were going to have the Central American College Tour. My first thought was, okay, this year is impossible. We're going to cancel everything. But then the schools I guide with my college counseling services called me, and they said, we have to have something. So canceling is not an option. Well, I panicked. I really panicked. For a whole month, I was in panic because I didn't know where to start, what to do. And then I don't remember how exactly happened, but I contacted Jenny, and she told me about KIC, UnivAssist, and the WebiFairs and everything. So that second, my life changed, and I got in touch with them. The challenge with us is that as it is a Central American college tour, I had to contact the rest of the countries, and we also had that issue of the money, coordinating everything, schedules, countries. Some countries are in Central American school schedule from January to October. Other schools are in the American school cycle. So it was a lot of coordination to do. Finally, we decided to go with WebiFairs. It was easy when Rohit told you it's an end-to-end assistance. It really is. So what we did is we sent with enough time the save the dates to all universities, hoping that we would have some universities participating in the Central American tour. Then we send a real invitation, and I think the first day we sent that official invitation with the link to register. We had that same day more than 40 universities registering. So yeah, we were very happy about that. One of our key success factor was daily. We created an email we already had an email especially for the fair. So we use a special email for that. So every day we review, we see that email, we respond to those emails on a daily basis. I think that's key for a successful fair, because universities, even in a virtual setting, they have so many questions. For many universities, it was their first time doing a virtual fair. Some already had some experience, but that's key, to have a special email and read that email every day, answer emails. So we decided on a 3-hour fair. We didn't do conferences or anything because it was too much and too overwhelming with so many countries involved. So some schools allowed students to do the fair during the school day. Most schools wanted the fair not during the school day. So we did the fair from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. So everyone was happy with that schedule. We had many universities more than 160 universities. It was a great fair, I think. As the Central American College Tour, it's always open to the public. And one of our rules is that it should be free for students to participate. So in Guatemala, we did it in a hotel. It was expensive. We are a group of 4 schools, so we could do that. But the rest of the schools from the countries, they did the fair at their schools. But we always received many students from around 15 schools. This year, we had more universities, more students, more schools benefiting from the fair. And I think for us, it was a great experience. We're looking forward for the second virtual Central American tour next year. I don't work for KIC UnivAssist. What we might do next year, but we're still thinking about it, is that because it's so big, we might divide the fair into 2 days. One, I don't know, maybe North American universities, and the second day, the rest of universities, to give students more time and chance to speak to admission representatives. That's one thing we're thinking about. But besides that, we received great feedback from universities throughout the planning process, the training KIC gives them to how to register, manage their booth. And then after the fair, it was a very good experience. All the feedback we received was positive. So definitely we are thinking about our second Central American virtual tour. So that's it. Thank you.
Susie, I just also wanted to add that, yes, having that separate email for the fair is so important. So you can differentiate the stuff you get for your normal everyday visits and the ones for the fair. So like, for example, ours is the O2O. So we have O2OPanama@gmail. And we've always had that separate email, and it just makes it so much easier to just, so it doesn't get mixed up in your day-to-day work email.
Great. Thank you very much, Susie and Jenny, for sharing your thoughts and the feedback. And absolutely, we are looking forward to working with you again on your events. I know we're already working with Jenny for her event this fall, but I think if I have to just summarize some of the learnings and for our audiences, and please feel free to jump in and share your thoughts. I think the first one would be, it would be helpful to do it with a group of schools, like collaborative thing with a group of schools rather than just doing it with one school, unless you have like a very large cohort. So that would be number one. The number two would be planning ahead. I know Jenny planned it a little over 2 months ahead of time. For Susie, I think it was a little over 4 or 5 months. I don't know. It was she had a lot of time in hand, and I think that really helped. That really helped for her to plan things in a better way, in terms of which universities you want to invite, how you want the schedule to be. Deciding on the data policy. Jenny brings up a very valid point here, that you have 100 universities participating in the event. Do you want your student data to go to everyone, or so you get to decide that as well. And then conducting these events during school time, I think that has kind of helped a lot, because you are collaborating with some of these schools in the region, and they are willing to give their students that 1 hour or 1.5 hour time to attend the event. And then finally, I think the secondary email that you talked about, I think that's something that is very helpful, kind of doesn't come in your day-to-day operations with what you are already doing at the school. So that is one email where all universities can communicate further and speak with you. So I think that's the overall I would say learnings and summary of our conversation. And I'm going to talk a little more about how we do that. But before I go there, I just want to quickly take 2 minutes to kind of take you through the platform, show you how we've done these events. And for this one, I'm actually going to take the Central American College Tour that was recently done in March as an example. So once we finalize an event, the first thing that we do is create your event specific link, which is your landing page for the event, where students can come to find more information about all the participating universities. So this is done by us, where we take some inputs from you. So as you can see, the banner, this was designed by us, but of course, taking inputs from Susie, excuse me, Susie and her team in terms of how they wanted it, what kind of designing they wanted. Sorry. So yeah, that's something that we do. And then we populate the entire landing page with all the information that we, of course, get from you as universities, register. You can see all of these universities that are here. Students come to this page to learn more about each of these institutions. They can click learn more. All of this information, by the way, is collected at the time of registration when a university signs up to participate at the event. And this is done so that there is no back and forth after a university has registered. So you get to define what are those information or data points that you would want to add or showcase to students on the university profile. So we discuss that, and we get all of those information from universities. There is a shared document between the organizers, which are the high schools, and us, where we maintain all of this information. So again, it's a very seamless process. Once students have gone through the universities and they want to register, they actually go through an enrollment form. And the enrollment form essentially, is more like creating your own social media account. Every student has a unique login credential on the account that they use to access the event. All of these fields that you see over here are defined by the school. So we of course share some of those common fields with you, but the schools really have a complete ownership of what they want to define and what information they want to ask from the students. And then once they have registered, they can actually log into the platform. So what you see in front of your screen right now is the platform. The platform is completely web-based, just so that we do not expect students to download any third-party softwares or maintain any links to any university rooms. So it's completely online. It's a web-based platform, and it works. It's mobile compatible, so it works on mobile devices. We do not have a lot of 3D modeling done on the platform, which actually helps, because there are students who join from their phone devices on their 4G networks, and it helps. It just works for them. So we've kept a lot of these details in mind as we define the event and the platform. And it's very simple and easy to navigate. I mean, there are really just 3 things that students actually have access to. One is the universities tab. Let me start with the universities tab. It's more like a catalog of all the participating universities. As you can see over here, you have all these universities that have participated at this event, and students can check details of all those universities here. But they have some more details here, so they can actually download their files and brochures. They can pin this university for them to review later. They have these popular programs at these universities listed, so they can see which universities offer those popular programs. And then they have the search bar, where they can actually search the universities that they are interested based on their subjects of interest, or even the country. And I think I saw Jenny nodding her head, but I think this is something that a lot of students have actually found very useful, because they are navigating 100 universities at an event. They want to find universities that are probably the right fit for them. So if I was a student who was interested in economics, I can search for economics here, and I can actually see all the universities that offer economics as a major. Similarly, I can search for any other course, or I can search by country. So if I wanted only Canadian universities, I can search for Canada, and I have a list of all the Canadian universities over here. So that's a feature that a lot of students, counselors, even the universities have appreciated, because it helps students to navigate the platform easily and visit the universities that might be right fit for them. Now, as a student, I can either visit the virtual room directly by clicking on this link over here, and it will take me directly to that university's virtual room, or I can visit the virtual lobby. So I'm going to skip the My Account tab. It's nothing but changing your account details. So that's all there is. But the virtual lobby is where all the action is. So think of the virtual lobby as the auditorium or an exhibit center where you have all these university tables, and students have complete freedom to move around in the room and meet with any university, go to any university table of their choice. Similarly, we have this in a virtual setting where you have all these university rooms, as you can see with their logos, and students have complete control over which university they want to visit, because all the universities will be online at the same time in their rooms. You also see there's a counselor help desk that Jenny was talking about earlier. So that's the help desk for group of schools who are organizing this event, where they can be placed if there are any questions from students regarding counseling or colleges. They can actually come to this room and ask those questions. We also have the technology help desk, which is manned by our team. So we're there to help you with any technology issues that might arise at the event and support that. Now, as I said, we can actually go to any university room. So I'm just gonna go to that first university room. I just need to click on that room and I'll be in that room. Okay, I'm getting this option right now, just so that you know, because I have those special rights on the platform. So I'm a presenter on the platform, and that's the reason I'm seeing this. But when a student joins the room, they actually join the room as a viewer. And I'm going to disable my camera in the room. So when a student joins the room, they actually join the room as a viewer, which means they will not see the video and audio option unless a university decides to invite them onto a video or audio conversation. So I'm going to show you that just in a second. But in terms of the functionality, so once you're in the room, you have the chat box where students can put in their questions, and universities, they can either answer it verbally or they can answer it over chat. You have the visitors tab where you can see all the visitors who have joined your room, and this is where they will also be able to see all the students. So if I just set myself as a viewer, so now I'm actually in the room as a student. And if there was a university rep in this room who wanted to chat with me or have a one-to-one conversation, they can invite me over onto a one-to-one conversation by clicking on this button against my name, and it sends an invitation. It sends an invitation that the room host wants to or has invited you to talk. So students also have that functionality, whether they want to accept or decline that request. So if they don't want to get on a video call, they can decline that, and it's completely okay. So we're pretty covered there from a privacy standpoint as well. But once they accept, they can be in the room with audio, video, having that one-to-one conversation with the university, while all the other students in the room will also be able to listen into the conversation. So that is what we were really talking about from a real-time experience, or an in-person experience, just in a virtual setting. So when universities visit your high school and there are 10 students surrounding their tables, they can actually speak with one student while there are others who are listening into that conversation. So that is the experience that we have kind of created on the platform. And then you have the brochures tab, where universities can upload their brochures and students can actually download those brochures in real time, and they can view those brochures. So they have all of those things handy right within that one room. And from a university functionality, they can mute or unmute themselves. They can show their video. They can actually do a screen share to do a presentation. So just clicking on this button will give them that screen share option, and they can do a presentation. I don't want to get a lot into the technicalities of it, but I think you have gotten like an overview of how the platform works. And if a student wanted to now move to some other university, they can scroll down over here on the left and just click on the university that they want to visit, and they can just change it with a click of a button. So that's how easy it is to navigate on the platform. And we have consistently been getting good reviews, good feedbacks from students, from counselors, from universities about the ease of navigation on the platform.
Can I just say something, Rohit? One thing that I really liked when you're showing that sidebar is that you can see that like how many people are in the room. And so like as a counselor, it was great. So I could kind of get a feel of who are like the busiest like tables at that time. And I wanted to like go in and chat with reps that weren't very busy at that time. So I would go to rooms where there weren't any students at that time. And I did actually see a lot of colleges using that function of inviting the students on screen. I thought that that wasn't going to be very popular, but I was surprised at how many of them were actually using that. It was really, really cool.
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely, Jenny. And I think that is one of the reasons that, universities like the functionality, because they can actually have that real-time experience when they visit your school, just in a virtual setting. So yeah, definitely a great point. And then you do have some notifications. I'm unfortunately not able to show you the notifications on the platform, but you do have notifications that you can schedule on the platform to go out to all the attendees at those times that you get to define. So that's really all about the platform. I'm going to go back to the presentation. We'll keep some time for questions. I'm going to be quick with moving with the other slides, but essentially what this really is, this is a collaborative setup where UnivAssist and the schools or group of schools come together to create an event where UnivAssist is really handling all the logistics and technology. We are the ones who are taking care of any and every technology requirement for the event, and the schools are the ones who are actually the owners of the event. So the ownership of the event is with the high schools that are organizing. They have complete control over defining the details of the event, defining the time, the date, the schedule, the workshops, the data privacy, whatever. I mean, whatever you want to decide, it is with the schools. So you can see some of these bullet points here. I'm not gonna dwell a lot into these, but I think these are just very self-explanatory. But it is, as I said, a very collaborative setup where we work together, leading up to the event. We have a shared Google Sheet where we actually maintain those universities that have registered for the event. We constantly are in touch with you, doing weekly, bi-weekly updates, doing calls, and that really helps in setting up a very productive event for the schools. So as next steps, what we really need when we are defining a virtual career fair is the date of the event, the expected number of universities, timing of the event. So we of course will have these calls as we get questions and define some of these items. And then finally, what are the benefits for schools in hosting your own event? One is definitely you get a customized branded virtual event that is created for you and your group of schools. So it's a closed group event, and that kind of helps even the schools to display the efforts that they are taking to help their students and community to still continue to engage with universities. You have complete control over which universities you want to invite. I know this was something, and probably Jenny can share some thoughts here in terms of the US universities being more popular with Latin America. So I know Jenny had some capping around how many US universities could actually participate at the event. So all of those control are with you. You get to define which countries you want those universities to come from. You get to define the schedule, whether you want to do workshops, when do you want to do those workshops, who you want to invite for those workshops. Everything can be defined by those high schools. And then this is a no cost to school. Universities bear a small technology fee for the event to participate. And to really think about it, they would have spent thousands of dollars to come to your school on flights, hotels, etc. But now, with a fraction of that cost, they are actually able to meet and engage with your students in a virtual setting when they are not able to do those travelings. And this also helps you to just stay focused on the event and making sure that it's productive. and not really worrying about the technology. As I said, we are there to take care of the technology completely. And we take inputs. We, of course, take inputs from you at every step. You know, whenever there's an update, we are constantly in touch with those high schools that are organizing. And then post event, you know, this is my favorite actually. You get to understand your student body in a better way. So you do get some statistics post event. I mean, depending on what are those questions that you define on the enrollment form, you can actually get some statistics out of your students. What are their top destinations or countries of interest? What are their top subjects of interest? Some of those items that you get to define, but you do have those statistics at the end of the event. So yeah, these are essentially all the benefits of hosting your event. I know a lot of schools right now are getting bombarded with individual visits by universities, and it just becomes very difficult for high schools to kind of just keep sending those individual visit requests to their students. I see Jenny is again nodding her head, but yeah, that's the reality. We've been speaking with a lot of counselors, and one thing that we've realized is that they're constantly getting these requests for individual visits. But I think when you're hosting your own event, I mean, you could do this twice in a year for all you know, and have universities participate in these events rather than having sent out individual requests to your students on a daily basis. So that is just my 2 cents here on that, and I think that's something that really helps for high schools when putting your events together. So that's about it from me. I don't know if Susie, Jenny, you have any thoughts here that you would want to share?
Yes. One of the things our students liked was that if they register before the event, let's say a week in advance or a few days in advance, they can access the platform, even if the universities are not live, but they can access the platform and start looking through the universities and reviewing their information and marking, pinning information and reviewing. So the day of the fair, they are already more prepared to visit the universities they want to visit. So that was another thing that students liked. And I think it's one of the useful options about virtual fairs.
Yeah, I agree. Also, I think that we were able to access it for a while after too, so students could go back and look in. And if they access it early, there's an option where you can unpin. It's unpin, right? That's what it's called, Rohit. You can unpin the schools from the students' dashboard. And so to make their list so that on the day they are more specific on the universities that they want to go visit, and they can use that time efficiently. And I think there was a question about once they register or like who, let me see, where did they register and where does that information go? Is it shared with universities, just KIC, keep it? So that was one of the things I mentioned that like I loved. And I think when you're organizing this, you really want to make sure you're protecting your students. And so that was a huge like concern of mine is it's different when it's in person and they can choose, but then when they go on, does that mean everyone gets it? And Rohit and the team really do give you that option of how you want that to be shared, and they respected that. And so after the fair, my students' inboxes weren't flooded with emails. It was they had received emails from the schools that they had purposely visited. So that made me feel a lot more comfortable about going with them, and that I had that control. And I also knew the company, I knew the owners, I knew that they had really like they're very ethically sound in how they run the business. So it made me comfortable with that.
Thank you, Jenny. And I think I just want to add there to that question. We actually share all of that data with the high schools. And you in turn share those with the universities based on your preference. But as UnivAssist, we don't keep the data. We absolutely don't use that data in any sort or any form. Your data from the event is your data. We have absolutely no use for we absolutely don't use that data. So I hope Palak that answers your question. So I see Prabha, there's a question. Do the school choose the universities, or do you propose the list of universities? That's a great question, Prabha. And the way it works is the event is yours. You get to decide which universities you want to invite. So the university invitations actually go through the schools. We have no control over which universities you invite. Even the same goes for students. The students' invitation goes from the schools or the group of schools that are organizing. We are only putting all the the rooms and the website and the technology together for those universities who have signed up for the event. In case there are any technical issue, that's where we are really pulled in to help those universities. Otherwise, for the entire event, I think it's the schools who are actually front facing with the universities.
And I just wanted to add to that. I think also one thing that you, in the beginning of this planning of process, whether it's a fair you've already done in person and you're moving it virtual, how do you want it to be structured? Because Susie's fair and my fair are quite different. They're different in size. She was working with several countries, and so I was able to have a lot more universities present. I was working in one very small country. Panama, our population is only 4 million people. So it's we were very strategic. Ours is an invitational fair. So we work with the counselors. It's a counselor-led event. And we work with the counselors from our 17 schools. And we create a Google Doc. And so we automatically invite the people who attended the year before, because we want to give them that, since they trusted us and they went with us from the beginning, we want to re-invite them. But then we look at that list each year, and the counselors that are part of our group. And we add a wish list, or if maybe we had a university that attended that really didn't engage, we may, remove them from the list. And so we really made it like a group effort, and that specific, if we've been seeing upticks in our applications to Australia. So I know that this year we're really going to try to push to have more Australian universities on our list. So it just depends on what your goal is. If you want it as a really large event, or do you want it smaller, and kind of making sure you use that to kind of guide you through the planning process. And then there's other fairs where they just open it up. Whoever wants to attend, because it's a much larger fair, then they do that. It's just whatever your personal goals are for. I think it is helpful in beginning the planning.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, the thing is that you own the process. So you decide how you want to invite, when do you want to invite, how to promote the fair with the students and parents. So it's all yours. They give you all the technological assistance, which is great, but it's your fair.
Thank you, Susie. And I see there are a few more questions. How many students can be active on the platform at one time? Is there a limit or cap? There is no limitation as such in terms of how many students or users can be active on the platform at any given point. Even with the rooms, there are really no restrictions around how many university rooms can be online at the same time. There's another question. How do you determine who would deliver presentations during the fair? Universities or counselors? And what are some topics you choose? I don't know, Jenny, you want to take that question, or Susie, in terms of the workshops that typically happen at these events?
Well, I'll touch on mine first, because I think mine was a little bit different, because mine was done before. But there are fairs where you can do it during the fair. Ours was before, and it was specifically like a webinar evening, like 2 evenings of webinars. And I chose from the list of universities that I had already confirmed, and I reached out to them and I said, or actually, no, I'm sorry. Let me go back. When they registered with us, I sent them a Google form and said, would you be interested in being part of the webinars? And then from those people that had said yes, then I invited them for the specific topics that they had selected from a short list of ones that they would feel comfortable presenting on. So I think there was one for like applying to art schools, applying to schools in the UK. I did very country specific ones. And then I did like how to stand out when you're virtual. And then some more like US universities did those presentations. So it's really just whatever you feel is a need for your students at that point.
Well, for us, because we were like 5 different countries and types of schools, and we didn't know how big or small was this first virtual tour was gonna be. Like we decided not to do webinars or conferences. I'm not sure if we're gonna consider that for next year, but it's your choice. Basically, the good thing is that it's your choice whether you want to do webinars during the fair, before the fair, after the fair. Everything is your choice.
Thank you, Susie and Jenny. There's another question: is the platform only active during the virtual fair? So to answer this question, once a student registers, the website or the landing page is functional from the day we start putting those universities up on the landing page. But once a student registers, they can actually go on the platform. They can view those university profiles. They can shortlist universities. They will just not be able to enter those rooms because the rooms are only active during the virtual fair. So I hope that answers that question. Does UnivAssist have an email template that can be used to invite universities? We can absolutely help you with that. And once we connect, we can definitely define those and help you with some of those templates. As I said, we have done a lot of these events since last year, and we do have our share of learning in terms of what universities expect and how to go about with communicating with them. So we'll be happy to share some of those learnings with you.
Rohit, there was a question of there's a pre-orientation event for students and counselors and who organize it?
Yes, thank you, Jenny. So there we actually put together videos both for universities and students, which are more like video tutorials on how to make the best of the event. So we do one for students, taking them through the entire platform and a student's journey on the platform, and what are some of those things that they can do in terms of just what I showed you right now, shortlisting universities, searching universities based on those subjects of choice or countries. Similarly, we do for universities, we have an orientation video where we take them through the platform and its functionalities. So we train them on all of those aspects, and we also have a separate testing date defined, where this is one day where we have the platform open for about an hour and a half, depending on the universities, and universities can sign in on the platform that day to test their systems out, to test if everything is working fine for them. If they have any issues, they will be able to report those issues to us, and we in turn will be able to help them solve those issues. We also have the counselor room active on that day, so that if they have any questions about the event, they can ask the counselors directly. So yes, the short answer to that is we do have those things kept in mind, the pre-orientation before the event, both from a university perspective and a student's perspective. Thank you, Lali ma'am. Thank you for those comments in the chat box. Appreciate it. Let's see. Any more questions? I think we've answered all of those questions. Great. We still have 6 minutes before we end the webinar, but if there are any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box or the Q&A section. Thank you, Ms. Prabha. Thank you for joining us. Great. I think we don't have any more questions. But again, I'm gonna actually put in an email address. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at this email address, and we'll be happy to schedule some separate time with you to really understand your requirements and kind of brainstorm a little bit with you in terms of how to go about with scheduling your own virtual university career fair.
One last question about how far in advance to plan it.
That's a great question. I don't know, Jenny.
Very last minute, but this year I'm starting now in May, and my event is at the end of September. But I just want to send out a save the date, and so that the colleges can already put that, since I know that that's a very popular time for universities to be doing presentations and making commitments. So I want to get them in first before they commit to other things. So it really just depends. I did mine very short notice. I think I had like 2 months, maybe 3 months, but that I would have probably liked to do it a little bit earlier. And I am doing that this year.
Yeah, I think if you already have the list of universities you want to invite, you need between 3 and 4 months to send the save the dates, organize, invite students, and I think between 3 and 4 months are okay to organize everything.
And I think if I have to answer it just from a technology standpoint, we typically advise at least 8 to 10 weeks before the event date for us to start putting things together. For us to put things together, we really need 2 weeks or a little less than that, because it is on an ongoing basis that we keep updating the landing page of the event with universities that are participating. So it's a very seamless task for us to keep updating these as we move towards the date of the event. But for high schools, I think one of the more important things to keep in mind is because they are going to invite those universities, so they need enough time in hand to do those outreach to universities, letting them know about the event and letting them sign up for the event. So given all of these things, I would advise at least 8 to 10 weeks in hand before you plan the event. Thank you, Jenny, for dropping your email address in the chat box. So yeah, if you have any more questions, I'll be happy to answer those. And you have Jenny's email, Susanna's email, if you want to connect with them to just learn more about their experiences, get some insights. I'm sure they'll be happy to do that. Great. Any last questions? Thank you, Prabha. I think we're done here, and if there are any more questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you once again for joining us, taking the time out. I know for some of you it's late in the evening, and you still made it at the webinar. So thank you very much for doing that. Really appreciate it, and we'll be happy to support your events in any way we can. Just feel free to reach out to us. Thank you once again, Jenny and Susie, for being part of this and sharing your insights and thoughts about organizing your own virtual career fair. Hopefully this has been a good session for counselors who've joined us from different parts of the world as they look forward to organizing their own event. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.